All right, thank you, everyone. Thanks, James and Neurotech for having us here to speak. It's nice to be here in New York, meeting with people in person after a couple of years. So, still in front of my computer though, but I can handle that. Been here before. So anyway, we are SecondWave Systems. Our company is building and pioneering what we call bio-ultrasonic medicine. So like bioelectric, but we're actually using acoustic energy to modulate organs in the body. So it's not electrical stimulation. So this is kind of a new area. There's a lot of great research going on here. We have the opportunity to commercialize the first of its kind anti-inflammatory treatment on this wearable platform that uses focused ultrasound energy. Our company has been funded completely by the Defense Department. So we have total contract awards of about $11 million, of which we spent around half of that so far. Our work so far, while we're focused on treating chronic inflammation, rheumatoid arthritis, with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, the government asked us to get involved and see if we could try to treat the COVID-induced hyperinflammation that is onset in the extreme cases of COVID. So we did a clinical trial, treated 100 patients in that, and produced devices under a QMS, and had quite a bit of FDA engagement in that process as well. Right now, one of the things that we are doing is we're fundraising to get more efficacy data in our exact dose and optimization parameters for rheumatoid arthritis to run in parallel with our pilot clinical study that's funded by DARPA. So that's something we're planning for upcoming. As mentioned, there's quite a bit of great work that's gone on in this area. A lot of it led by our really close clinical partners and members of our company at the University of Minnesota, but also really great work out of GE Research. I think a lot of folks in this room probably know the people who have done work like Hubert Lim and Chris Polio at GE that have advanced this field of non-invasive spleen stimulation to treat chronic and acute inflammation disorders. And again, the pathway, the mechanism, there's more research ongoing here. But vagus nerve stim pathway through the splenic nerve and the cholinergic pathway is what we believe is causing this effect. But it's definitely a new area, and we think it's very promising. So while we lead with RA, and that's the main area that we're trying to treat, as I said before, we did our first in human trials in COVID-19, and we looked at treating acute inflammation. But this is, to us, a beachhead for a large area, a large platform that we can use to treat other chronic inflammation disorders. Again, on this non-invasive platform that patients can use at home. So a lot of advantages to being able to use a device non-invasively and at the same time target an organ as opposed to certain methods which may not be able to target quite as well as ultrasound can. So in RA, I think I also probably don't need to explain too much to a lot of people here who know it, but there's a lot that's left on the table right now. The standard of care includes biologics and drugs that are expensive for one to the healthcare system, but also have a lot of side effects that are hard on patients. Most patients, in addition to maybe being on popular drugs like Embro, would be taking things like prednisone and different steroids, as well as things like methotrexate, which is also a chemotherapy. So there's a lot of need here. A lot of rheumatologists, a lot of patients are frustrated, and that's left the door open for people to get in and bring devices to the table. So there's, again, a lot of really, really great companies and great people who are working on this with implantable neurostimulation devices to target the nerve, the splenic nerve, or the vagus nerve. We know them, and some of them are even here with us, and their work is really good. Where we come in and where we think a little bit differently, though, is trying to get a product and a therapy out to patients that could use this non-invasively, something that could supplement or complement their drug use. Implantable medical devices are awesome, but they're probably usually going to be second or third options, late line therapies. They're not going to be things that could be adopted by masses of people the way that drugs are commonly accepted. So we're working on this device, which would be reasonably low cost. We can produce these at costs that are similar to consumer electronics that we buy all the time. We'd be able to offer them before reimbursement. Our intention is to launch this after FDA approval, and it could be paid for patients out of pocket and maybe for a few $1,000s. There's also an opportunity for for patients to be monitored by their physicians and for there to be compliance and for doctors to actually know what's going on with their patients. That was mentioned earlier this morning. It's a problem with drug use. Physicians often get frustrated. They don't really know if their patients are using it, how often they're using it. Well, with the device now, and especially connected device, that's on the table and someone could actually use that. Also, again, this is used at home. There's opportunity for it to be someday when it's reimbursed on a per use basis and not just sold as the device on its own. So just kind of recapping some of the work that we've done, we've been solely government funded, lucky enough to be supported really heavily by DARPA through initially our phase 1 SBIR, but then we won our phase 2 SBIR with them. And like I mentioned with the onset of COVID, DARPA came to us and gave us some more investment trials in COVID-19, as well as a group in the DoD called CBER Medical that funded our first COVID trials, which we started in early 2021 and just wrapped up a couple of months ago. That CBER also asked us to, initially we had a contract to get to do further work in COVID, but now that the feeling is that COVID is moving into an endemic state, we're looking at shifting that program towards treating long COVID, which I heard mentioned just really briefly over here because I missed a bit of the last session, but there is a feeling that long COVID kind of mimics a chronic inflammation disorder. So we may do that. It's not going to run in parallel to our RA pilot study, which kicks off in a few weeks. But after our RA pilot, we may restart that program with CBER and do a long COVID study as well. So this device that we made, our first in human, you see some pictures here. I actually have a prototype. This was one of our earlier prototypes that we use on this is placed on the device. 3M makes these coupling strips and is a partner with us on a potential patch that we could use with this. You put it on your torso between your 9th and 10th ribs on your left side, right above your spleen, and it sits there for 9 to 8. So our first device that we used in our COVID trials was this one. The one that we're about to use in our upcoming RA pilot study has a dial of the spleen and be placed accurately. All of that development has been funded by DARPA. What we are looking at home use device. So that one would actually have active feedback targeting on it. It would be able to track the location of the spleen and then redirect the ultrasound energy. It uses behind that active area, that plate you see, there's a 256 element transducer array with beamforming microchips on it that are high voltage in the world of consumer electronics, but not in ultrasound. And that's used, the spacing between all the elements is optimized so that we can get really high accuracy for essentially our device. So again, what we're looking to do is complete our closed loop at home device that a patient can administer themselves. So far, the devices like this one are all administered by trained professionals. So in our RA pilot, we go to the patient's home, we treat them. COVID-19, it's in the hospital. But what we really need to do and what we're going to launch is something a patient can use on their own. Now, placement accuracy won't matter so much. Feedback-based targeting is necessary. And ultimately, in order to really achieve the highest levels of efficacy, we think it's necessary for an administrator not to be involved to intervene to make sure it's working. The device needs to have that onboard intelligence and do it on its own. So that's what we're developing now. Following that, in early 2024, we intend to kick off our Series A work, which includes a pivotal study that would run through that year. And then we'd aim for FDA approval. So again, our goal right now and what we're doing at the moment is further work to enhance our efficacy data and optimize our device for a closed loop targeting. It's our team, again, as with I think everyone's company around here, we can all say that our teams are awesome. We specifically, I think what makes us really strong is we spun our company out of another company called the Ultran Group, which actually got that first SBIR award from DARPA. And Ultran is an established company, over 40 years of manufacturing experience with ultrasound devices. What we did in our DARPA SBIR is we partnered up with our friends at the University of Minnesota who became members of our company, and they lead a lot of the research in this area of spleen stimulation for anti-inflammatory treatment. So together, we've now formed SecondWave, which is about 2.5 years old. And we bring quality management experience to the table and a lot of experience at some established medical device companies, which is really nice to have in a small company like ours. So in recap, that was just a quick overview of SecondWave, and I'd love to talk more with anyone here about it. We're really excited about the work that we're doing and this opportunity in RA. Again, we think our experience, our solution, coming after an area that has an unmet need, and again, patent protection in this field that's pretty complicated, kind of make us well positioned to do what we're doing. But yeah, that's it. Just a quick overview of our company. So thank you again.